Here we go. Once upon a time, not long ago, when people wore pajamas and lived life slow, justice and injustice lived. People behaving like they all too good. There lived a little boy who was misled by another little boy, and this is what he said: "Me and you, boy, we're gonna." Just kidding. As we can all tell, I have absolutely no spit game. So, this is Professor Monique Gilchrist, and this is my snapshot presentation. So, as far as my educational influence, we all know I talk about my mom a lot. She's a single parent, and she actually dropped out of school when she was a junior in college to have me. So, we knew college was very important growing up. We had no choice. We watched her struggle. We knew it was going to get us out of um, basically where we live, which wasn't poor, but it was poor enough that we wanted to have a better life. So ultimately, what I ended up doing was applying to three schools. I applied to Temple University. I applied to North Carolina Central, which is a historically black college down in North Carolina. And I applied to Widener University. As I did my research, I learned that Widener, at the time when I was applying, they had recently had a cross burned on their lawn, so it didn't seem like a safe place for a person that looked like me. Um, and then it was between North Carolina and Temple. However, when I was a senior, my grandfather got really sick, so I felt like I needed to stay close to home. So I ended up picking Temple. Plus, my mom said if I went to North Carolina, I could never come home except for Christmas, which is only once a year. So that was a little much for me. So I ended up going to Temple. I loved my experience there. I'm an owl through and through, hooty hoo. Um, I was a cheerleader there. Pom pom team. The cheerleading squad wanted me to lose a little bit of weight. I was already very small. That didn't make sense to me. So I was on the pom pom team, which kept me very involved. I worked three different jobs because I was an out of state student. So I was always scared I was going to get kicked out because I always owed a bill. The bill usually was around $5,000 each semester that I had to pay in order to get back. I didn't get a lot of sleep because I was always working. One of the jobs was an overnight waitress job at Denny's. And I just worked, cheerlead, and slept. I did find time to go to parties. I'm not even gonna lie, I did party a little bit. But my grades weren't really what I would have loved. Um, the biggest fear in college, I think, was that I felt like I didn't belong there. I had friends that were very, very smart. It took me 5 years instead of 4 years to get out, possibly because I changed my major 5 times, which is quite okay. You guys luck out because you have this class. During my freshman year, I had a bit of an issue where I wasn't going to class a lot. But luckily, I had a teacher who was in my major who recognized that I had missed about 3 weeks or so of his class. And he called me after class and he said, "So, where have you been?" "In my room, doing nothing." And he's like, "What have you been doing when you're in your room?" I'm like, "Sleeping, watching TV." He's like, "Yeah, here's the deal. I'm going to fail you if you don't go see a counselor." I was like, "All right, I'll go see a counselor." He was like, "No, no, 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 no." He picked the phone. He said, "You're going to go now. Make an appointment." So I did. I ended up getting through all my anxiety that I was dealing with going to college, being the first to go, not having a lot of money, selling jewelry to pay for books, all those different things. I will say it all made me resilient, obviously, which a lot of you guys, I know you go through a lot in order to make it through school. So just know that you're strong enough to do this, even when you think you're not. As far as where I stayed at Temple, I struggled in math. I was great in English. Everything was review for me. I had already learned it in high school. I was a great writer. I still am. It's one of my strengths. However, math is my weakness. I was in my senior year of school. Well, let's just be honest, my fifth year. And during my fifth year, I had finished everything except for math. At Temple, you got to take two of them. You got to pass them both with a C minus or higher. I passed the first one after taking it 4 times. I got to the second one. I'd taken it 3 times, still couldn't pass it. I had everything else completed, and the counselor said to me, "You probably want to go see the Center on Disability." I went to them. They were like, "We need to test you." My family, we all got all this money together in order for me to get tested. And I found out during my senior year about to graduate that I have a math disability. It would have helped all those years ago when I was in high school. My mom was yelling at me to do better for someone to test me, but they didn't. So Temple did end up letting me graduate with the D's in math. Luckily me. Um, but it was a great experience because if I hadn't had that one teacher, Herb Simons in communications, who basically noticed that I hadn't been in school, I probably would have dropped out. If I didn't have the counselor to say, look, this is the way you can try and figure out what's going on, go to the Center on Disability, I would have never made it through college. So just to give a shout out to them, not that they're ever going to see this, but just in case. Um, as far as college and what I really learned, I mean, I learned that it was a wonderful opportunity to meet lots of different people. And that's what one piece of advice I would give you guys. Meet everyone you can meet. It's a place to network and get to know different people from different backgrounds. The other thing I'll say is after I left Temple, I got out and I couldn't find a job because I had just dibbled and dabbled in certain things and couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. So it's important for you to try and figure it out sooner than later, which is part of the reason you guys are taking the Focus 2 and you're taking this FYE class. In addition, I worked a little while before I figured it out that I wanted to go to grad school to study counseling. So I worked for a couple years. Then I decided I want to get my master's. And funny enough, I ended up going to Widener. So, the minorities had been more accepted there. And I felt more comfortable as a grad student, even though I'll be honest and say, in my education program, there were probably only five of us, but I was more secure in myself, so I was okay being in an environment that wasn't an environment that everyone looked like me. I did really well in grad school. In undergrad, I think I had graduated with like a 2.6, which is like a C minus or something. And then in grad school, I got a 3.98. A lady gave me an A minus. She'll say I earned it. I should agree that I earned it. But she said I was a bad writer, and that was hard to swallow, especially in grad school when you've been writing all this time and getting great grades. But that's one of the things you learn, that you can't be perfect at everything. There's going to be different people that you have to write for and you have to learn from, and you just kind of have to try and be flexible. So this was my snapshot presentation. I'll see you guys soon in class. Have a great night.